Fifthing, The Numbers Game, Brooklyn, New York, 1926. Chapter 1. Mrs. Radowski, Mrs. Radowski, it's Frankie. Frankie knocked again more loudly so Mrs. Radowski could hear. The old lady's hearing wasn't so good anymore. Mrs. Radowski's place was right next to Frankie's house, so close that on summer nights Frankie could reach out her window and almost touch it. Most nights, summer or not, Frankie could hear Mrs. Radowski singing some low, sad song in Russian. But at least that was better than what came from the Polish house on the other side. Mrs. Radowski opened the door all the way when she saw who it was. "Hello, Francis. You would like to come in for a biscuit, yes?" "Not this afternoon, Mrs. Radowski. I'm working. Do you want any numbers today?" "Oh, yes, please." Mrs. Radowski found her change purse and handed Frankie a quarter. 24 cents today? Mrs. Radowski usually only bet a penny. "Yes, today is good. I win today. I feel it. What is winning on 25 cents? $150, Frankie told her. The old lady patted Frankie's baseball cap. "So clever, young Francis. You should go to university. You sound like my pop. Same numbers, Mrs. Radowski? 406? Mrs. Radowski nodded. It was always the same with her, 406, her dead husband's birthday. Frankie waved goodbye and knocked at Mr. Nolan's 3 doors down. Mr. Nolan spent all Saturday in his undershirt and underwear, no matter the temperature. He took a nickel bet on 835. He was one of Frankie's few regulars who liked to mix things up. The Steins across the street bought 555 for a penny, the same amount the McAllisters on the corner spent on 357. 357 was one of the popular ones, even though in the 2 years Frankie'd been running numbers, it had never hit. Frankie finished her street and worked her way up and down the next couple of blocks. When she'd collected all the numbers for her territory, she ran up Flatbush Avenue, past the big ticker tape board at Prospect Park Plaza that showed the sports scores, and then over to the Blind Pig on Sterling where they ran the Policy Bank. The front entrance was a dry cleaner's, but the service door led to the saloon in the basement. Frankie rapped 3 times, waited, then rapped again. The peephole slid open. Frankie waved. "Hey, Amos." The door plinked and clanked as it was unlocked, and Frankie slipped inside. "Heya, Frankie," Amos said, his deep voice booming. Amos was huge, the biggest man Frankie had ever seen, colored or not, but he was a real softy at heart. Amos smiled. "No notes again today?" Frankie tapped her noggin through her cap. "Got it all right here, Amos." He shook his head as he bolted the door. "I don't know how you do it, Frankie. Me, I got trouble remembering my telephone exchange." "Greenwood, 36420, Frankie told him. "That's right, but how did you—" "I heard the barkeep ask for it one day when you were late and they called around looking for you." Amos shook his head again. "Too smart for your own good, girl. Best get on into Mr. Jerome. He'll be waiting for you." The only 2 customers in the place sat at the bar hunched over their drinks as Frankie passed through the Blind Pig. She only ever came on afternoons when the crowds were light. Her pop told her blind pigs were just places to go and have a drink anyway, joints that would have been dive bars before the anti-saloon league types had pushed prohibition through. It was the speakeasies that were supposed to have singing and dancing too. Frankie would love to see that, but she supposed her father would tan her hide for it. Billy Sparks was running through his numbers with Mr. Jerome when Frankie got to the counting room. She stood in the corner and figured up the combined earned run averages of the Brooklyn Robins pitchers while she waited. Billy always took a while. He had to write everything down, and it took him and Mr. Jerome the better part of half an hour to decipher his pigeon scratch. When Frankie's turn came, she gave Mr. Jerome the numbers and the bets as fast as he could record them. Mr. Jerome never said anything, but Frankie could tell he liked having someone who could give it to him straight, the way the men at the bank liked it when she worked everything out on her father's deposit slips before he got up to the counter. Frankie was halfway through the numbers when the door opened and Mickey Fist stepped inside. Mickey Fist owned the Blind Pig and ran the local numbers games. He had a flat nose and a square head, and he looked like a gorilla stuffed into his big monkey suit. Mickey Fist was about the same size as Frankie's father, but all his weight was in his thick shoulders and arms. Frankie heard he got his name by putting his fist through a door and knocking a guy out cold on the other side. And she believed it. "This the kid?" Mickey Fist asked. Mr. Jerome nodded. "Keep going, Frankie." Frankie didn't know if she was in some kind of trouble or not, but she gave the rest of her take to Mr. Jerome as usual, while Mickey Fist listened in. When she was finished, she handed over the pocketful of money she'd collected and waited while Mr. Jerome did the count. When he was finished, he nodded at the boss. She ever get one wrong? Mickey asked. Never. What's 8 times 18? Mickey asked her. 144. 156 times 7? 1092. Divided by 12? 91. Mickey Fist looked to Mr. Jerome, who was scribbling with his pencil. He looked up and nodded. The boss looked Frankie up and down. How old are you, kid? 11. You play it straight a couple of years, we could find a place for you in the organization. You like that? Yes, sir, Frankie said. Mickey Fist nodded and left. Frankie let out her breath, and Mr. Jerome did the same. He straightened his glasses. You did real good, Frankie. Real good. Mr. Jerome paid Frankie her cut, and she went back out into the blind pig. Mickey Fist was talking to another man at the bar. I'm telling you, I was there, the other man said. He slapped a newspaper down on the counter and pointed to it. The numbers in the Times and the numbers at the park don't match up. I bet the numbers that came up at Belmont. That means I ought to get paid. Frankie knew immediately what was going on. The numbers game worked like this. The players bet money on 3 numbers between 0 and 9. The numbers used to be pulled out of a hat, but that was too easy to fix, and people wouldn't play. Then somebody got the bright idea to use the daily numbers the newspapers published from the local racetracks. Mickey Fist used Belmont Park. The New York Times printed the total take from the win, place, and show bets from the Belmont, and Mickey used the last dollar digit in each one to come up with the daily winning number. If the Times said the Belmont took 2,597 for win, 703 for place, and 49 for show, the daily numbers were 7, 3, 9. It was a good system. The players could check their own numbers in the paper, and since there was no way to fix the numbers, everybody knew the game was legit. Except the New York Times didn't always list the numbers right, like today. Sorry, pal, Mickey was saying. You know the rules. We use the numbers printed in the Times. But they're not right, I tell you. I get what you're saying, friend, Mickey said. He squared his body toward the other man, making it plain just how much bigger he was. But we only use the numbers in the Times. Mickey made a show of straightening the other man's tie. The guy didn't flinch, but he didn't bat Mickey a fist away either. And what is it they say? If it's in the Times, it must be true. Mickey nodded to Amos, who escorted the man out. The conversation over. A clock on the lamppost outside told Frankie she still had an hour before game time, so she wandered through Flatbush looking for her father. She found him on Carroll Street, whistling and twirling his baton, and ran up behind him and jumped on his back. A robber, he joked. Help, I'm being mugged. He swung her around, and she tickled him until he deposited her on the steps of a brownstone. How do you always know it's me? She asked. Her father reset his policeman's cap and tugged at his shirt to make himself look smart again. Sweetheart, a real bandit lay me out cold on the sidewalk, not riding me around like some steeplechase pony. He took a break from his patrol and sat down on the step next to Frankie. You run your numbers? Frankie showed him her haul. 55 cents. Number rackets were illegal, just like blind pigs and speakeasies, but Pop and most of the other cops looked the other way. Frankie knew most of them went to those places to have a drink when they got off duty anyway, her pop included. Her father reached into his pocket and pulled out another dime. Here, so you can have something to eat at the park. Frankie kissed her father on the cheek. Thanks, Pop. Who they playing today? The Giants. Easy win for the Giants, then, he said. Brooklyn might win. Those bums, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. Frankie's father had been a bat boy for Brooklyn a long time ago, but he hated them now and would never tell Frankie why. He had to be the only Giants fan in all of Brooklyn, or at least the only one who was tough enough to admit it. You wait and see. The Robins will win the pennant this year. You like Brooklyn so much. Why do you wear that old Giants hat of mine? He asked, rubbing the cap on her head. She batted him away and fixed her hair under her hat. It's mine now. I like it, she said. She stood to go. Mickey Fist talked to me today. Said I had a future in the organization. Your future is in college, not a numbers racket. I'll see to that if I have to work 2 jobs for the rest of my days. 3 jobs. No girls go to college, Pop. That's just the way it is. Her father frowned. It doesn't have to be. I'll see you later, Pop, all right? Frankie said, heading off. Be home by dinner, her father called. I'm making meatloaf. Okay, Pop, Frankie called back. She was already turning the corner, on her way to Ebbets Field.